We have already driven a couple of Jeeps, but this might be the Jeepest Jeep of all. My name is Peter and this is the Jeep Wrangler. The animal, the one that you think of when you think of the brand Jeep. I say animal, there is a V8 version available in the US. There's also a V6 version available in the US, but those are not available here in the Netherlands. Simply not possible with our tax system. So we get the 4xe, which is the hybrid version. There's a 2-liter petrol engine underneath with a hybrid system, which allows you for about 35-40 kilometers of electric only drive, which is quite interesting. But this is of course the vehicle that you're going to take off-road. This is the Rubicon version, as you can clearly see here on the side. There's also a Sahara version which is slightly more street orientated, but this is the most hardcore version that you can buy from Jeep. I say buy from Jeep on purpose because this is obviously a car that you're going to completely remodel. If we go here to the side, you can see that things like the door hinges and the screws are all exposed. So you can take these doors off relatively easily. And this is of course a car you're going to put a cage on the roof and extra tires on the side and extra jerry cans with fuel on the side. You can go completely crazy in terms of customization with this kind of car. And that is really what it is for. It is a platform that you can then build upon. That said though, this car is already extremely capable by itself as you buy it from the factory, because there's all kinds of settings, low range gearboxes, as we'll see inside in a bit. So you can get started instantly. You drive it home and you can go straight into the forest. That's a good point to make right away, because I live in the Netherlands. There is some forest here, but off-roading is limited, let's say so. And I didn't really feel like taking it to the beach where it's just flat anyway. So we're going to throw it a little bit of terrain here, but you know, by no means we're going to tickle this car all the way up to what it is capable of. I popped the hood here for you to see the 2-liter 4-cylinder petrol engine. That in itself is quite nice, but it is connected to the hybrid system with a 17 kilowatt-hour battery for a combined power output of 380 horsepower. So that is certainly nothing to sniff at. For a car this size and a car this weight, it's well over 2 ton. It doesn't sound like that much, but it is reasonably fast. You can do 0 to 100 in about 6.5 seconds with the right conditions, obviously. I'm not really sure if that goes for these Rubicon tires and normal tarmac, but 6.5, 7 seconds to 100, not too bad. So you can certainly go fast if you want to. When you go off-roading, obviously that's not so relevant, because then you put it in low range, diff locks and all that good stuff. And then it's still nice to have the power from the engine supported by that electric power, because that's instant torque, instant go, which is always nice. If we go around the car, it's about 1.80 meter and a bit wide. It's almost 5 meters long, not quite. But it is also 1.90 meter high, as you can see, which is quite nice. It's a large vehicle, large wheelbase, so there is some space inside, although not as much as you might think. But it is a very capable platform in itself already. A few details here on the outside. I mentioned the screws already. This is all plastic, this is all plastic, this is all plastic. This is the charging port, by the way. So there's a lot of sort of removable stuff on the outside that will inevitably break when you start off-roading. The thing I don't really like, because it's a car you'll probably use a little bit on the street as well, is this running board, which is instantly dirty, as you can see, because the front wheel spits out quite a lot of mud down here. Not an issue in itself, but you don't really use this running board to get into the car, because it is not that high to get in. I don't really need to get into the car like this. But that does mean that you're constantly going to get your pants and your shoes dirty on this running board. Not an issue when you're off-roading, but when you're sort of driving around and it's muddy and rainy outside, you're going to get dirty pants. I've turned the car around for good measure so you can see the back, starting obviously with the giant spare wheel. Nothing you'll need in real life, but when you go off-roading, it is always good to have an extra tire with you ready to go. The real story here on the back though is the square shape, which is very practical, as we'll see in a bit, but also the fact that you can still see all the screws exposed on the outside, and that elements like this tail light are just 2 bolts and you can take it out and put a new one in, because this is inevitably something that you'll break at some point. And the same thing with this rear hatch. You can just unscrew the pins here and get rid of the whole thing. I'll open it up for you. Fridge style opening. You can't sit on that obviously, but it is very practical to have so much space. Not so practical in parking garages, for example. Small detail, by the way, is the blue tow hook back here, which is a hook and not your tow bar. For some reason this doesn't have a tow bar, so you can't pull any trailers with this particular version. But this is so you can be winched out of the mud if you so need to. Then the boot itself, I'll open this one up too. It's very square and very spacious. And again, the modular design, I'll sit in it for a bit. You can see it here. This is the roll frame of the car. So you can take this whole superstructure off and then you're left with this for the full outdoor off-road experience. Sitting in here, you can get a bit of an idea about the size. It's nice and high, very square and usable that way. Charging cables back here and some bags for the roof. We also have a 12-volt socket and a big Alpine speaker here. So a lot of practical stuff again. But yeah, the main theme is really that you can customize this as well, take everything off if you so desire. Another thing that stands out with this car is that almost universally it's considered cool. Obviously there's a bunch of Karens here and there that are sort of like, what's this? But every time, I've had this car for a week now, and every time we're driving around or shooting something or standing still at a traffic light or gas station, you see people like pointing and looking, and a lot of people sort of spontaneously coming up to me and asking like, oh, what's this all about? Or Jeep owners coming like, oh, is that the 2025 version? Oh, you got the Rubicon? So that's really cool. And I had the same feeling with the Toyota Supra and the Toyota GR Yaris, for example, that it's a car that's so far outside the norm, and that people sort of universally accept it as, oh, it's not a, you know, another hatchback or whatever. It's so far out there that it's automatically cool. And especially like the Jeep owners that come and ask specifics like, ooh, how about the sway bar? Is that any good? That's really nice. And that camaraderie and that sort of universalness of like, hey, we're all in this and this is cool. That's nice. And I think that's a big part of the smile factor that this car gives you as the vehicle that it is. Obviously, a little tour through the cabin of this Jeep Wrangler Rubicon. And the first thing you notice is the sky. This has a soft top, sort of tent-like folding roof that slides all the way back to the rear with two buttons over here. You can remove the whole thing if you want to, but it is very convenient. You can slide that in and out. So when the weather is like today, you have infinite headroom. Really lights up the interior. It is all very black and dark and even darker around here, apart from the blue stitching. The blue stitching you'll see throughout the car. It is obviously for the Rubicon version and for the 4xe version. That's the signature color. So you find it here on the seat and here with the logo. It's all kind of nice. When we move to the center console, underneath the screen we have a whole bank of buttons for your air conditioning, your defogging, your seat heating and all those kind of things. Very easy to operate, so that is quite nice. Going further down, that's where the business gets serious. We have the window switches here. I'm not really sure why that's all here in the center, but okay. We have a cigarette lighter. I'm not really sure when the last time was I saw that in a car, but it is a long time ago. But it's here. Not really sure why it's here, but okay. We have a media panel here for all your aux and your USBs to plug in for all your movies and everything else that you're watching, that you can then control here with these aux buttons. Next to that is the serious hardware with your diff locks, Offroad Plus and sway bar buttons to alter your driving abilities. And here we have a secondary gear stick for your 2 high, 4 high auto, 4 high part-time, neutral and 4 low. So that's your low range gearbox that you then obviously operate with the normal drive select knob here. You can even do a full manual if you so desire to change gears yourself. We have a manual handbrake, so that's interesting. Some cup holders here and a 2-stage center console with a small cubby here that is barely big enough for my sunglasses, and then a deeper one here with some USBs down there as well. So that's your practicality. In the door you get some nets to store drinks and maps, I suppose, but that's about it. Overall, the cabin is not as roomy as you would think for a car this size, but it's not too bad. The steering wheel is large, but I suppose that is quite nice when you're off-roading and you have to make a lot of steering inputs. And the materials all around are okay. The car, as it sits here, is almost 90,000 euro. So that's a lot of money. And I think that most of the money went to the hardware underneath rather than the interior design and the quality in here. It's not bad at all, but for 90,000 euro pricing, you would expect it to be better. But obviously that is for a road-going vehicle, not an off-road machine like this. There's nothing really going wrong. You could argue like the cigarette lighter, why is that there? And these buttons, as far as I'm concerned, could have been a bit higher, because if you're fully into the off-road game, which is, let's be honest, why you buy this car, I think you want to, you know, fiddle with these buttons a bit more often, and then they're sort of behind and tucked away. And last but not least, this car, being an off-roader, has a lot of handles. So we have a grab handle here. They're also in the rear. We have another big one here for your passenger and another one here as well. So as you're bouncing around the forest or the mountain trail, at least you're nice and secure. And that also goes for these seats, actually. They're not full bucket seats or anything, but they do offer enough support so even when the car is pitching and rolling, you do stay put. So obviously a little bit of driving in this Wrangler Rubicon as well. I almost said unicorn there, which maybe it is a bit of a unicorn, especially in this day and age. What other vehicles can you get that offer this kind of performance? And the performance aspect is a crucial one, I think, because this car obviously performs absolutely fantastic off the beaten path. Off-road, this car, I would almost say, has no equals. The Land Cruiser comes close, but has a different philosophy, I think. But the switch you gotta make in your brain of what's possible with this car is really cool. Because obviously in your day-to-day driving, you're not thinking about, you know, attack angles and going through a field and all those things. But when you drive vehicles as capable as this one, suddenly you start to realize like, oh, I can just go through there. Oh, why not take the shortcut over here? And the possibilities start to sort of dawn in your mind, and it's really cool to sort of grasp the capabilities of a vehicle and a platform like this. So that's really nice. And when you do then take it, in my limited ability, experience and availability here in the Netherlands, on some mud and on some tracks, the car just eats it, no problem. Like without even touching any of the buttons and any of the real hardware, the car just does anything you throw at it, which is really cool. So I can really get to feel that sort of Jeep DNA shining through, where you take this out on the weekend and go beyond off-road with your mates in some kind of Jeep club or off-road club. I can really see how that works and how that appeals to people. Here on the highway though, none of that is relevant, and here on the highway you also realize that this is not the vehicle for long distance cruising. It's loud with the tent roof, it's all a little bit clunky, and it's not really the natural habitat of this car. That said, it is all very soft and comfortable. Of course, we have super thick tires, we have all the suspension in the world, and overall that makes it a very soft and almost a little bit floppy car. You know, the big steering wheel, there's a bit of play in there, and the car sort of takes a minute to respond to your inputs. So obviously that's inevitable to the fact that it's so good off-road that it is compromised on the road. It's not that it's impossible, you know, with the hybrid system and the relatively small engine, it is actually quite pleasant to drive because you can just leave your residential area fully electric and in silence without some kind of barking V8 going off. And I can imagine when you do arrive in the forest, it's also kind of nice to have that hybrid system going for you. So, you know, it's not impossible, and there are certainly some benefits to this powertrain and this setup, but overall, it is not the place for this car. There's far better cars for cruising, highway work, and even more so as your day-to-day driver. Here in the back of the Jeep Wrangler, we obviously have to see if there's enough space to take your buddies off-roading. As you might know, I'm 183 and about 90 kilos, and I fit here quite easily. So no issues there whatsoever. Also not with 3 adults. Gets a bit tighter then, but it is certainly possible. The thing you'll notice though back here is this giant roll hoop here in the roof. Obviously this is part of the structure and the cage construction, so fine, it has to be here, but it also has speakers in it and lights, so that certainly doesn't add to any kind of thinness. With the roof open here, it is quite spacious, obviously, because there's a lot of light coming in. With this closed, it does get dark quite quickly back here. The same goes for the front, actually. Other than that, the materials here are all the same. I'm sitting on top of the battery pack, by the way, so the 17 kilowatt hour battery is underneath here, so that makes me sit slightly higher. It does give me a good overview of the car, and also the connection to the front of the car is very solid that way. So that's nice. There's plenty of light and information coming in from the front. There is some creature comforts back here. So I got a storage net here. We got some air conditioning vents. We got the window switches here in the center console, as well as some USB charging. And there's a full 220 volt plug here, so you can charge your drone, your laptop, and everything else. Quite a flat floor, as you can see, so plenty of space for me to move my feet around. Also, when I want to sit here in the middle, no issues whatsoever. What is an issue is that the back of the seats is hard, so that is uncomfortable at the best of times. But when you're bouncing around here while you're off-roading, that is certainly gonna hurt your knees, so that is not ideal. But it is all very easily cleanable, so I suppose that's good when you go off-roading with your buddies. That said though, it is nice to sit here up high, basically shoulder to shoulder almost with small truck drivers. So you know, you have great overview, and that's actually quite nice, but the car is so large that sometimes it's a bit tricky to place. You can't really see the corners all too well, especially with the fender sticking out so well. So you know, it is just heavily compromised here in this context. So this is clearly not the car you're going to pick for your daily driver. Again, people in the comments, it is technically speaking all possible, but let's be honest, practically speaking, this just doesn't fit. This is a car for the purists, for the enthusiasts of off-road driving that want to take this off-road with their mates in the weekend. And for that, it is absolutely fantastic. The capabilities are wild, even before you start putting like mud tires on it and cages on the roof and all those kind of things. Even before all that, there's little that you can throw at this car that it can't take. So I can really see that you're going to customize this and enjoy it over the weekend as a toy, a very capable toy, let's put it that way, and not as your day-to-day driver. After a week with this Jeep Wrangler, we've made it as dirty as we can here on the flat surfaces in the Netherlands. What do we make of it? I think this is a fantastic base platform to build upon. Obviously, the modular approach of this car allows you to spend all your bank account, your savings account, and your pension and then some to build this into your ultimate off-road wet dream. I think that's really cool, and for that it is the fantastic proposition. The underlying hardware is solid, it's strong. The Jeep brand obviously delivers here in its most ultimate form. I think this is a great car to buy. For 90,000 euros you have a solid starting point, and this powertrain with the hybrid system is kind of nice because you can still drive quietly around your house without a barking V8, although the purists will probably say that that is the one to go for. Here in the Netherlands though, we're stuck with this 4xe. Obviously all that off-road goodness makes the car very compromised on the road. The tent roof, the construction in general, it's noisy, the fuel economy is terrible, the hybrid range is not good enough. So you're not going to buy this car to be your everyday run-of-the-mill school run car. That's not what it's for, and you should not see it in that context. The comparison with the Toyota Land Cruiser is easy to make because the underlying hardware is very similar, but this is a much more raw and focused approach, mainly for off-roading, where the Land Cruiser also works really well on the road. And the modular approach is something that the Land Cruiser has a lot less of, even though there's also a big aftermarket scene for that car. If you get this for off-roading, good choice, go for this, have fun, go crazy. If you want an on-road car, don't look at this at all. That's the basic conclusion. If you have some kind of off-road club or Jeep club or something, give me a call, because I like this kind of stuff. It's really cool, and I would love to see this car in action in some real terrain with some people that know what they're doing. So give me a call, contact me, I'll put all the info in the description, and we can make a cool video together. For now, thank you very much for watching. Hope you liked it. Give it a thumbs up if that's the case. Sub to the channel is always appreciated, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Cheers!